The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with noise. 847 different species sat in their seats, waiting for the most important vote in galactic history. The air smelled of fear and anger. Ambassador Taman Park sat, alone in the human section. His dark suit looked simple compared to the bright robes and metal armor worn by other species. Next to him, Sa-Young Kim held a datapad with shaking hands. She was young for a diplomat, but her eyes showed wisdom beyond her years. "They hate us," Sa-Young whispered to Taman. "Look at their faces." Taman did not turn his head. He had seen the looks before. Kalari delegates showed their sharp teeth when they stared at the humans. The massive Torvan representatives made growling sounds. Even the peaceful Aquaries seemed nervous around the human section. Chancellor Vorthok stood at the center podium. His blue skin glowed with anger as he raised his forearms for silence. The Kalari leader had worked for 3 years to bring this vote to happen. Everyone knew he wanted humanity gone from the galaxy. "Fellow members of the Galactic Alliance," Vorthok began, his voice echoing through the hall. "We are here to discuss the human problem." The word problem hit Taman like a punch. Humans had been part of the Alliance for 50 years. They had helped end wars, shared technology, and saved dying planets. They were called a problem. "Humans expand too fast," Vorthok continued. "In 50 years, they have colonized 200 worlds. They build cities where other species fear to live. They make friends with dangerous species that we avoid. They do not follow our traditions or respect our ancient ways." Murmurs of agreement filled the hall. So-Young wrote notes on her pad, but her hand shook with each word. High Arbiter Zenthus floated forward on crystals of pure energy. The ancient being had lived for thousands of years and remembered when the galaxy was young. When Zenthus spoke, everyone listened. "I have watched species rise and fall," Zenthus said, in a voice like singing glass. "Humans are different from all others. They learn too quickly. They adapt to icily. They make weapons from peaceful tools and tools from weapons. This is dangerous." Taman stood up slowly. The hall went quiet. He walked to the speaking platform with calm steps, but his heart beat fast. So-Young had told him this moment would come, but he had hoped they were wrong. "Honorable members," Taman began. His voice was steady and clear. "I have served as human ambassador for 12 years. Humans have helped end 16 wars. We have shared medical knowledge that saved millions of lives across 40 species. We have protected trade routes and stopped pirates. We have asked for nothing in return." "You ask for nothing because you take everything," shouted a Kellery. "Delegate." Others joined in with angry sounds and clicks. Taman waited for quiet. "We take nothing that is not freely given. Every human colony exists on worlds that no other species wanted. Desert planets, ice worlds, planets with deadly storms. We make these places into homes because we must. Earth is overcrowded."
Chancellor.
Vorthok stepped forward. "You say you take only empty worlds, but you make them into military bases. Your colonies are armed fortresses. Your merchants are also soldiers. Your scientists create weapons of war." "Every species in this council has weapons," Taman replied. "Every species protects itself. Humans do the same." "Not like you do," said High Arbiter Zenthus. "Your kind thinks differently. You see war where others see peace, which you prepare for. Battles that may never come. This makes other species afraid." So-Young stood and walked to Taman's side. She was not supposed to speak, but she activated her datapad and projected images into the air above the council. "These are human colonies," she said. Her voice was smaller than Taman's, but it carried clearly. "Look at them. Farms, schools, hospitals, art centers. Yes, we have defenses, but look what we protect. We protect life, not war." The images showed human children playing with alien children, human doctors treating sick aliens.
Yes.
Human teachers sharing knowledge with different species. Human artists creating beautiful works with alien partners. "Pretty pictures?" growled a Torvan representative. "But pictures lie. We know what humans really are. Conquerors, destroyers. Your species killed millions of your own kind in wars on your home planet." "That was long ago," Taman said. "We learned from our mistakes. We chose a better path. Did you?" Chancellor Vorthok asked. He activated his own display. These are human military ships. More than any other species, these are human weapons. More advanced than any other species, these are human soldiers. More trained than any other species. You say you learned peace, but you prepare for war better than anyone. The hall erupted in angry sounds. Species that rarely spoke to each other now agreed on one thing. Humans were dangerous. Tommen looked around the hall. He saw fear in hundreds of different types of eyes. Fear of human strength. Fear of human growth. Fear of human potential. We prepare because we must, he said quietly. The galaxy is not always peaceful. Pirates attack our ships. Hostile species threaten our colonies. We protect ourselves and anyone who asks for help. No one asked you to be galactic protectors, Xanthus said. That is our fear. You protect, but who protects the galaxy from you? Soyoung squeezed Taemin's arm. She had found something in her data. Her face was pale as she showed him the screen. The vote was already decided. 3 major species had made secret deals. Kellerai, the Crystalline Collective, and the Torvan Empire had convinced enough smaller species to vote against humanity. Members of the Council, Chancellor Vorthok, announced, "We call for a vote. Should humanity be placed under protective oversight of the Galactic Alliance? Should human expansion be stopped? Should human military forces be reduced to acceptable levels?" Taemin knew what protective oversight meant. It meant humans would become second-class citizens. It meant human colonies would be controlled by alien governors. It meant the end of human freedom in the galaxy. "Before you vote," Taemin said, his voice rising for the first time, "remember this moment. Remember that you chose this path. Humans have been your friends, your helpers, your protectors. If you make us your enemies, remember that it was your choice, not ours." The voting began. Species after species cast their votes. The result was never in doubt. 723 species voted yes. Only 124 voted no. Most of those were small species that humans had helped in the past. Chancellor Vorthok smiled with all his sharp teeth. The vote passes. Humanity has 30 standard days to withdraw from all contested systems and submit to Alliance oversight. Any resistance will be met with military force. Taemin and Soyoung gathered their things in silence. Toward the exit, Taemin activated his communication device. His message would reach Earth in 6 hours. "Admiral Lee," he said quietly into the device, "the vote failed. I want to see what we're really capable of. Perhaps it's time we showed them." Soyoung looked at him with worried eyes. "What happens now?" Taemin's expression was calm, but his eyes held something cold and dangerous. "They learn why humans prepare for war, even when we hope for peace." The Great Hall celebrated behind them. They did not know that they had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had declared war on the one species that understood. War better than anyone else? The countdown had begun. Admiral Hyan Wu-Li stood on the bridge of the battleship New Seoul. The stars outside looked cold and distant. His communication officer had just received the message from Ambassador Taemin Park. The Galactic Council had voted for war. "Sir," said Captain Dong Hyan-Yoon, walking up to the Admiral, "all colony ships are ready. The evacuation can begin immediately." Lee nodded but did not speak. He had prepared for this day for 20 years. Every human colony had evacuation plans. Every human ship knew where to go. Every human soldier knew what to do. "Begin Operation Homecoming," Lee said quietly. Across 200 star systems, human colonies received the same message at the same time. Families packed their belongings. Children asked their parents why they had to leave their homes. Parents gave simple answers, but their eyes showed worry. On the agricultural world of New Busan, Dr. Ji-hai Choi watched farmers load their equipment onto transport ships. She had lived here for 10 years, studying alien plant life and helping crops grow better. The aliens called her a friend. Now she had to leave everything behind. "Dr. Choi," said Mayor Kun-ho Song, walking up to her, "the last transport leaves in 2 hours. You should be on it." Jihai looked around at the empty buildings. The humans were leaving, but something felt wrong. The evacuation was too smooth, too fast, almost like they had practiced it many times. Mayor, she said slowly, how long have we been preparing for this? Mayor Song looked uncomfortable. Orders came from Earth 5 years ago. We were told to be ready to leave quickly if needed. 5 years ago, before the tensions got bad, before the Galactic Council started complaining about human expansion, someone on Earth had seen this coming long before anyone else. On the mining world of New Daegu, General Sujin Nam watched the last civilian ships disappear into hyperspace. Her soldiers stayed behind, hidden in underground bunkers that the aliens did not know existed. General, said Colonel Minky-Ro, the Kellery fleet will arrive in 6 hours. Should we prepare for battle? No, Sujin replied. We wait, we watch, we learn. The colonel looked confused. We're not going to fight them? Sujin smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. Colonel, the best way to win a war is to let your enemy think they have already won. 3 days later, Kalari ships landed on New Busan. The soldiers expected to fight humans, but they found empty cities instead. The buildings were intact. The power still worked. Water systems functioned perfectly. It was like the humans had simply vanished. Commander Zelthor, of the Kellery 4th Fleet, walked through the empty streets of New Busan's capital city. His soldiers searched every building but found no humans. They found something else instead. Every computer system was still running. Every factory was still working. Every automated system continued its job as if nothing had changed. But when the Kalari tried to access the systems, they found they were locked out. Sir, reported Lieutenant Vexcor, cannot access their databases. The computers recognize us as unauthorized users. Break the encryption, Zelthor ordered. We tried, sir. The security is unlike anything we have seen. It seems to adapt and change as we work on it. On New Daegu, Torvin mining ships tried to restart the human mining operations. The massive machines worked perfectly, but only for a few hours at a time, and they would stop working for no reason. Torvin engineers could not understand the problem. Dr. Jihai Choi sat in a small observation post hidden in the mountains of New Busan. She was not supposed to be there, but she had volunteered to stay behind and watch what happened. Through her binoculars, she could see Kalari's soldiers getting frustrated with human technology. It's incredible, she said into her communication device. They can't figure out our systems. The computers are treating them like intruders. The other end of the communication, General Sujin Nam listened carefully. What about their supply lines? They're struggling, Jihai reported. Human infrastructure was designed for human needs. The aliens are having trouble with everything from door sizes to food dispensers. Sujin smiled. Human architects had built colonies for humans, not aliens. The Kellery were too tall for most doorways. The Torvin were too heavy for standard floors. The Aquari needed different atmosphere controls. The aliens were discovering that living in human cities was very uncomfortable. But that was not the worst part. On New Inchen, a crystalline collective administrator tried to access the planetary defense grid. The screens lit up with warnings in human language, but when translated, the messages made no sense. Warning. Unauthorized access detected. Initiating Protocol 7. Have a nice day. What is Protocol 7? The administrator asked his human translator, a woman named Haijin who had chosen to stay behind. Haijin looked innocent. I don't know, I was just a teacher. But she did know. Protocol 7 was one of hundreds of automated responses built into every human system. If non-humans tried to control human technology without proper authorization, the systems would start to malfunction in small but annoying ways. Food dispensers would give the wrong meals. Climate controls would make rooms too hot or too cold. Transport systems would take longer routes. Communication systems would have delays. It's nothing dangerous, but everything frustrating. 3 weeks after the occupation began, Chancellor Vorthok received reports from all human worlds. His military commanders were unhappy. Sir, reported General Korthax, our forces are in position on all human worlds, but we are having difficulties. What kind of difficulties? Vorthok asked. Everything, sir. Human technology does not work. Well, for us, their cities are designed wrong. Their computers will not obey our commands. Our supply lines are stressed because human infrastructure does not meet our needs. Vorthak's eyes narrowed. Are the humans sabotaging our efforts? We don't think so, sir. Most humans left peacefully. The few who stayed behind seem to be cooperating. The problem is that human technology is just ... different. Very different. On Earth, President Min Ho Kong met with his military advisors in a deep underground bunker. The room was filled with screens showing alien forces on human worlds. Report, the president said. Admiral Lee stepped forward. All civilians are safely evacuated to secure systems. Phase 1 is complete. Aliens are now discovering that controlling human worlds is harder than conquering them in Phase 2, the president asked. General Sujin Nam appeared on a communication. Screened from New Daegu? My teams are in position on all occupied worlds. We have been observing alien operations for 3 weeks. They are frustrated, tired, and making mistakes. Dr. Yoonji Seo, the head of human weapons research, smiled. Sir, our quantum disruptors are installed and ready. They have been hidden in human infrastructure for 5 years waiting for this moment. President Kang looked around the room. These people had spent decades preparing for this day. They had known that other species feared human strength. They had known that fear would eventually lead to war. Gentlemen, ladies, the president said calmly. The Galactic Alliance wanted to see what humans are capable of when pushed into a corner. I think it's time we showed them. He turned to Admiral Lee. Begin Phase 2. Admiral Lee smiled. It was not a kind smile. Yes, sir. Operation Payback is authorized. Across 200 star systems, hidden human defense teams received the same message. The aliens had occupied human worlds for 3 weeks. They had gotten comfortable. They had thought they had won. They were about to learn how wrong they were in her observation post. Dr. Ji-Hai Choi watched Kellery's soldiers relaxing in the captured human city. They had stopped searching for hidden humans. They had stopped checking for traps. They thought the hard part was over. She activated her communicator one last time. This is Observer 7. The aliens are ready. Begin the storm. The real war was about to begin. The first sign of trouble came at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time, on New Busan. Commander Zelthor was sleeping in the human governor's mansion when all the lights went out. Emergency power did not turn on. Climate control stopped working. The communication systems went silent. What is happening? He shouted into the darkness. His soldiers ran through the halls with portable lights, but they could not find the problem. Every system in the city had simply stopped working at the same moment on New Daegu. The Torvin mining operation ground to a halt when all the mining equipment shut down. The massive machines that had been working perfectly just hours before now sat silent and cold. Across 200 human worlds, the same thing happened. Power grids failed. Communication networks died. Transportation systems stopped. Defense computers crashed. Everything that made the worlds livable simply stopped working, Dr. Yoonji Seo watched from Earth as her quantum disruptors activated across the galaxy. She had spent 10 years developing the technology. Tiny devices, smaller than coins, hidden inside every piece of human equipment and infrastructure. Perfect synchronization, she reported to President Min Ho Kong. Every disruptor activated at the same time. The aliens are now sitting in the dark on 200 worlds. President Kang nodded. Phase 2, Step 1 complete. Begin Step 2. On New Busan, Dr. Ji-Hai Choi climbed out of her hidden observation post. The alien soldiers were running around in confusion, trying to restore power to their equipment. Did not see her moving through the shadows toward the city center. She reached the main communication tower and attached a small device to the base. The device was another of Dr. Yoonji's inventions. It would broadcast a message on all frequencies that only human equipment could receive. This is Observer 7, she whispered into the device. The storm has begun. All units, begin operations. Across the galaxy, hidden human teams received the message. General Sujin Nam and her soldiers climbed out of underground bunkers that the aliens had never found. Captain Deng Haiyan Yoon and his special operations teams merged from caves and abandoned buildings. The aliens had thought all humans were gone. They were wrong. On New Incheon, Lieutenant Park Ji-ho and his squad surrounded a crystalline collective supply depot. The aliens had stored food, weapons, and fuel there. Now it was guarded by only 10 crystalline soldiers who could not see in the dark. Remember, Ji-ho whispered to his team, "We are not here to kill them. We are here to send a message." Human soldiers moved like ghosts through the darkness. They disabled the alien guards with stun weapons and took control of the depot. And they did something the aliens did not expect. They destroyed all the supplies, but they left the guards alive and unharmed. Before leaving, Ji-ho left a note written in the crystalline language, "You voted for war. This is what war looks like. Leave our worlds, and no one gets hurt."
Oh.
Similar scenes played out across every occupied human world. Human teams struck at supply depots, communication centers, and command posts. They moved fast, struck hard, and disappeared back into hiding before the aliens could respond. But the humans did something that confused the aliens. They rarely killed anyone. They destroyed equipment and supplies, but they left the alien soldiers alive. Commander Zelthor found one of his supply convoys destroyed on the road to New Bizen's spaceport. The Kellery drivers were tied up, but unhurt. The trucks were empty, but the drivers were alive. "Why did they not kill us?" asked one driver. Zelthor did not know the answer. In Kellery culture, enemies were killed, but humans seemed to follow different rules. What the aliens did not understand was that this was part of the human plan. Dead soldiers become martyrs. Living soldiers become afraid. 3 days after the disruptors activated, Chancellor Vorthok received panicked reports from all occupied worlds. "Sir," reported General Korthax, "we have lost contact with 60% of our forces. Supply lines are completely disrupted. Our soldiers cannot operate their equipment in the dark." "Send more troops," Vorthok ordered. "Sir, we have tried, but our reinforcement fleets are also having problems. Their navigation systems are failing. Communication equipment stops working. Food synthesizers produce inedible meals." Vorthok's forearms shook with anger. How is this possible? High Arbiter Zenthus materialized in the council chamber. Ancient crystalline being glowed with dim light. The humans planned this. Everything on their worlds was designed to fail when we tried to use it. "But our intelligence said they evacuated peacefully," Vorthok protested. "They did evacuate," Zenthus replied. "But they left traps behind. Not bombs or weapons, but something worse. They made their own technology turn against us." On Earth, Admiral Haiyin Wu, Lee received reports from all human teams. The first phase of Operation Payback was working perfectly. "Sir," reported Colonel Sungmin Chen from New Seoul Colony, "enemy morale is collapsing. They are requesting emergency supplies from their homeworlds, but their supply ships are getting lost because human navigation beacons are giving false signals." Admiral Lee smiled. "Excellent. Begin Phase 3. Commander Jae Sungo led the most elite human pilot squadron in the galaxy. His ships had been hiding in the asteroid fields around human worlds waiting for their moment. "Phoenix Squadron," he said over the radio. "Target the enemy's supply ships. Disable, do not destroy. We want prisoners, not corpses." The human fighters moved like lightning through space. Their ships used stealth technology that the aliens had never seen before. They appeared on enemy sensors for only seconds before vanishing again. The alien supply convoys never knew what hit them. One moment they were flying through space, the next their engines were dead and their weapons were offline. Human pilots would then broadcast the same message. "This is the Human Defense Force. You are trespassing in human space. Surrender your ships and you will not be harmed. Resist, and we will show you why the galaxy fears human technology." Most aliens chose to surrender. Back on New Busan, Commander Zelthor tried to contact his home fleet for evacuation. But the communication equipment would not work. Power generators would not start. Even their emergency rations had somehow spoiled. His soldiers were hungry, cold, and afraid. They jumped at every shadow, wondering when the humans would strike next. "Sir," said Lieutenant Vexcor, The men are talking about retreating. Retreating? Zelthar roared. We are Kellery warriors. We do not retreat from hairless apes. But even as he spoke, Zelthor knew his soldiers were right to be afraid. The humans were not fighting like any enemy the Kellery had faced before. They struck without warning and disappeared without a trace. They destroyed supplies, but spared lives. They seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It was psychological warfare at its finest. It was working. President Min Ho Kong stood before the cameras in his underground bunker. He was about to address the galaxy for the first time since the occupation began. Citizens of the Galactic Alliance, he began, his voice calm and steady. 6 months ago, you voted to make war against humanity. You said we were too dangerous to remain free. You said we expanded too quickly and prepared for war too well. He paused, letting his words sink in. You were right to fear us, but you made one critical mistake. You assumed that because we sought peace, we were weak. You assumed that because we helped others, we could not help ourselves. You assumed that because we followed your laws, we had forgotten how to break them. The president's eyes grew cold. You voted for war because you feared our potential. Now witness our reality. This is what happens when you force the galaxy's most successful warriors to stop pretending to be diplomats. The broadcast ended, but the message was clear. Humanity had been holding back for 50 years. The gloves were finally off. In the darkness of New Busan, Commander Zelthor received an emergency message from his home world. All units evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. The humans are coming. It was too late. The humans were already there. Fleet Admiral Young-Soo Han stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Indomitable. Around him, 1,000 human warships moved through the darkness between stars. For 20 years, this fleet had been hidden in secret bases, carved into asteroids, and built inside Darkneb. The Galactic Alliance had never known it existed. Admiral reported Captain Sora Wong. All fleets are in position. 300 ships at each target system. We are ready to begin the final phase, Young-Soo nodded. The aliens had occupied human worlds for 6 months. They had grown comfortable, thinking they had one. Now, they would learn what human military power really looked like. Send the message. To all fleet commanders, he ordered. Operation Thunder begins now. On New Busan, Commander Zelthar watched the sky through his command center window. His forces had been trapped on the planet for weeks, unable to leave because human fighters controlled the space around the world. Suddenly, the stars seemed to move. Shapes appeared in the darkness, blocking out constellations. More and more shapes, until the entire sky was filled with them. Sir, his communications officer said with a shaking voice, we are detecting over 300 human warships entering the system. Zelthor stared in shock. That's impossible. Intelligence said humans only had 50 combat ships. Intelligence was wrong, sir. The human fleet was unlike anything Kellery had ever seen. The ships were huge, sleek, and moved with perfect coordination. They surrounded the planet in minutes, cutting off all escape routes. Then came the broadcast. Fleet Admiral Young-Soo Han's voice filled every communication channel in the system. This is Admiral Han of the Human Defense Force. Kellery troops on New Busan, you have 30 minutes to surrender. Lay down your weapons and gather at the main spaceport. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Commander Zelthor activated his own communicator. This is Commander Zelthor of the Kellery 4th Fleet. We are soldiers of the Galactic Alliance. We will not surrender to rebels. Admiral Han's response was immediate. Very well, you have chosen the hard way. What happened next would be remembered. In military schools for generations, the human ships did not attack the planet. Instead, they demonstrated their power in a way that no alien could ignore. One human battleship fired a single shot at New Busan's moon. The beam of energy was so powerful that it carved a perfect tunnel through the entire moon from one side to the other. The tunnel was exactly 1 kilometer wide and perfectly straight. The message was clear. If humans could do that to a moon, what could they do to a planet? Commander Zelthar looked at the hole in the moon and realized his forces were completely outmatched. All units, lay down your weapons. We surrender. Similar scenes played out across 200 star systems. Human fleets appeared without warning, surrounding alien occupation forces. Most aliens surrendered immediately when they saw the size and power of the human armada. On New Daegu, General Sujin Nam met the surrendering Torvan commanders. The massive aliens looked small and defeated as they handed over their weapons.
Ow.
"Did you hide so many ships?" asked General Morvac of the Torvan Empire. Sujin smiled. "We learned long ago that the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know you have. While you watched our merchant ships and diplomatic vessels, we built a real navy in secret." Dr. Haewon Lim sat in her laboratory on Earth, watching reports from across the galaxy. Her artificial intelligence systems had been installed in every piece of human technology for decades. Now they were revealing their true purpose. "Fascinating," she said to her assistant. "The AI systems have completely taken control of all human infrastructure on the occupied worlds. The aliens can't operate anything without our permission." The assistant looked at the data. "Dr. Lim, it says here that the AI systems have been learning about alien psychology and behavior for 6 months. They know exactly how to make the aliens as uncomfortable as possible." Haewon nodded. That was the plan. Make occupation so unpleasant that the aliens would want to leave on their own. But since they chose to stay, the AI systems switched to Phase 4. Phase 4 was psychological. Warfare on a massive scale. AI systems began playing disturbing sounds through the speakers in alien-occupied buildings. They made the lights flicker in patterns that hurt alien eyes. They controlled the temperature to make aliens feel sick and dizzy. Within days, alien soldiers on human worlds were begging their commanders to evacuate them. Ambassador Taemin Park returned to the Galactic Council chambers for the first time since the vote. But now he was not alone. He was accompanied by an honor guard of human soldiers and followed by news reporters from 50 different species. Chancellor Vorthok sat in his chair, but he looked much older than before. His blue skin had turned pale, and his forearms shook with stress. Ambassador Park Vorthok said weakly, "We call for a ceasefire. Surely we can negotiate, Taemin walked to the center of the chamber. His voice was calm, but his words cut like knives. 6 months ago, you voted for war. You said humans were too dangerous to remain free. You said we needed to be controlled." He looked around the chamber. Many seats were empty. Some species had withdrawn from the alliance when they saw human military power. "You were correct about one thing," Taemin continued. "Humans are dangerous, but you made a critical error. You assumed that dangerous meant evil. You forgot that the most dangerous humans are often the ones who choose to protect others instead of conquering them." High Arbiter Zenthis materialized in the chamber. The ancient being's light was dim and flickering. "What do you want from us?" Taemin smiled, but it was not a kind smile. "What we have always wanted, to be left alone to live our lives in peace. But since you chose war, we will give you war until you remember why peace is better." 1 year later, the galaxy was very different. Emperor Jinwu Zhu sat on the bridge of the flagship Soul's Pride, the largest warship ever built. He was no longer just the president of Earth. The human colonies had declared him emperor of the Human Stellar Empire, ruler of 400 star systems. The Galactic Alliance now controlled fewer than 300 systems. Many species had switched sides when they saw human power. Others had simply gone neutral, too afraid to choose either side. "Your Majesty," said Admiral Sora Wang, "the Galactic Council is requesting another peace conference." Jinwu looked out at the fleet surrounding his flagship. 5,000 human warships, all built in the past year using technology that had been hidden for decades. "Tell them they may send ambassadors to Earth," he said. "But they will come as supplicants, not as equals." Dr. Kyung-Hwan Beek, the new chief diplomat, prepared for the most important negotiation in galactic history. The remaining Alliance species were coming to surrender, though they would call it a peace treaty. The terms were simple: complete human independence, recognition of all human territorial claims, and reparations for the damage caused by the occupation. But Jinwu had added one more demand that shocked the galaxy. "We also require that human military forces be allowed to patrol neutral space, Kyungwon explained to the alien ambassadors. Pirates and raiders have been attacking peaceful worlds while everyone was distracted by our war. Chancellor Vorthok, now much older and weaker, protested. You want to make humans the galactic police force? No, Jinwoo replied from his. Thrown aboard the flagship, we want to do what we have always done, protect those who cannot protect themselves. The difference is that now we will do it openly, with the full power of the human empire. General the Jin Moon oversaw the transition on the former Alliance worlds. Many alien species now worked alongside human administrators. The humans were firm but fair rulers, and most aliens found life under human control to be better than they expected. It's strange, said Zelthor, the former Kellerai commander who now served as a police chief on New Busan. We came here as conquerors, but the humans treated us better than our own government ever did. His partner, a human officer named Wu Jin, smiled. That's because we learned something your leaders never did. Fear makes people obey you, but respect makes them follow you willingly. 50 years later, children of many species learned the same history lesson in schools across the galaxy. The Great War lasted only 1 year, their teachers would say, but it changed everything. The Galactic Alliance voted for war because they feared human strength. They forgot that humans had chosen to be peaceful, not because they were weak, but because they were strong enough to choose peace. What happened to the Alliance? A student would ask. It became the Human Protectorate, the teacher would reply. And for the first time in galactic history, there was true peace among the stars. Because sometimes the only way to achieve peace is to be so strong that no one dares to break it. Ambassador Taemin Park, now an old man, kept a recording of the original vote in his office. Sometimes he would play it for young diplomats to remind them of an important lesson. Remember, he would tell them, the galaxy voted for war because they thought we were too dangerous to remain free. They were right about the dangerous part. But they forgot that the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy is not a gun or a bomb. It's a human who has been pushed too far. Recording would end with his own words from that day. If you make us your enemies, remember that it was your choice, not ours. The students would leave his office understanding that peace is not the absence of strength, but the wise use of it. And in the vast human empire that now stretched across half the galaxy, former enemies worked alongside former friends, all protected by the same human fleets that had once been their greatest fear. The Galactic Alliance had voted for war. Humanity had given them exactly what they asked for. And in the end, everyone learned that sometimes getting what you wish for is the worst thing that can happen to you. The galaxy was at peace. It would stay that way, because humanity would make sure of it.